claim it.
People have every right to be cautious and afraid, and you should be, especially with your wallets where your money, like if you connect to the wrong app, like you could maybe give permission for an infinite spend limit. Let's say you got Hex in your wallet or USDC or something else, and you give permission to an app that you don't understand. Now they can spend all of your money. That sucks. So you really want to understand the permissions. So when you connect to the Pulse Doge dApp, for example, it only you're giving permission, and it tells you plain and simple, you're giving permission to that app to view your addresses and to suggest transactions to approve. That's it. That's all that it can do. It can view your addresses, suggest transactions to approve. If your address exists in the set of claimable addresses, which anyone that's a dev could use the Merkle tree to work their way back and see what are those set of claimable addresses. If your address exists in that set, then you'll be rewarded Pulse Doge by clicking the claim button based on your staker leak. And you could do it for all the addresses that you had stakes active as of April 20th.
So I'm just thinking about the point of like, how do you know it's safe to claim? Is there like a website that shows examples of what scams have used? Like, I almost want to write a blog. I want to research this and write a blog about like, hey, if you see like this message, send all your coins to this address, approve or not, then don't click that. Like, I really think the community would benefit from having a list of these things. Like, if you ever see this, don't do this. Everything else may be okay, but if you ever see these things, like, definitely not okay.
Watch out for anything that you're giving permission for infinite spend limits. And by the way, if you did at some point give permission for infinite spend limits, you can revoke that on certain sites. I just can't think of the sites off the top of my head. Maybe people in the chat can mention them, but you could revoke those permissions. Actually, you could revoke the permissions on Etherscan. You could create a profile on Etherscan. You can connect your MetaMask wallet to Etherscan and revoke those permissions on that site. It shows you all the permissions that you've given. Let me give you one example of where there is like an infinite spend limit. So for example, if you want to like market sell 40 million Hex instead of murdering the price chart, you could take that Hex, you can create an HSI on the Hedron.pro. You could create the stake length for whatever length of time. You tokenize it as an NFT, and then you can list it on OpenSea. OpenSea keeps a 2.5% commission because they're a middleman, right? They're trying to make money. It sucks, but that's just the way it is. But when you interact with that platform, you are giving OpenSea an infinite spend limit to your USDC. So if you sell HSIs for $500,000 USDC, they're going to tap into your money and take their 2.5% fee, and then you get whatever's left over. But it is a risk. There is vulnerability there because you've given that permission. So like I've done that recently. I sold some HSIs to another Hex shark. I didn't murder the price chart. I got USDC, and I ate the 2.5% fee. And then what I did when I was done, I revoked that permission on Etherscan so that situation didn't always exist.
So that would be an attack only if OpenSea got hacked, right?
Or someone from OpenSea executed something, right? So,
by the way, I have a security background, so like all these things, I'm thinking a little bit more deeply about when you say them. I'm like, actually, I could see that or not. So
I like it. That's good. Also, you might ask about the code. Is the code safe? For example, what if there's if you can't verify the Merkle tree, then technically, and I'm going to be speak in general terms. I'm not a dev. This is mostly outside the scope of my knowledge, so I'll just speak on what I know and what I've learned recently. If you can't verify the Merkle tree, that's kind of an issue, because what if there's some hidden addresses that you can't see that you don't know exist, and they could mint an infinite number of Pulse Doge tokens? Well, that would suck, because you just claimed that it was a scarce supply, and now these wallets can just continuously mint tokens and dump it on people's heads, right? So that'd be a problem. You don't want like an inflation bug. You don't want where people could just mint tokens out of these addresses. Thanks for the nice comment. Thank you. So anyway, 4 independent devs looked into this. They were unbiased devs.
I was
And
one of them as well, by the way. I
okay.
briefly looked at it. I mean, I
Nice.
don't write Solidity code, but I know how to code. I know how to look for certain things. I'm like, yeah, I looked at it in April. Seems
Okay,
fine.
nice.
Why not claim it?
Did you see any issues that or any red flags that you?
I mean, it's extremely simple. I mean, what it's like 100 lines of code or something. If it was doing something malicious, it's either hidden super deep, or there's just literally nothing there. It's a skeleton with a few configurations filled out pretty much, and a couple of simple functions.
It turns out that the founder and potentially one other private person have a background in computer science, and the code is it's simple, but it's very elegant. It's very simple. It's nothing complex, right? But it's well written. It's clean. I've only taken a C++ course, right? I'm not a dev or anything. I can't read code, but other devs looked at it and they broke it down and they signed off on it. And these are trusted people in the X community. So I think that's good for other people that are not technical or non-devs like myself. It's good because it helps build confidence in it, because you don't really want to inject a lot of money into something if you can't trust the code. That would suck. What if you injected hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even small amount for smaller players? What if they injected $10,000 or $5,000 or $1,000? So that's a lot of money for some people. So like, you want to be able to like trust these things. And the only way you can really, that happens is if people do the research. And we are somewhat dependent on the research that they do, but we can at least verify like once they dumb it down for us.